So good evening, everybody. Thank you for coming this evening to listen to my talk. As you all know, my name is David Ash, and I've been working for 50 years now on an approach to physics that I developed from an ancient yogic philosophy. And this physics has led me to some pretty extraordinary conclusions, and the major conclusion is it supports the spiritual. So it's very exciting that we now have a physics of spirit. And really that's what you would expect from yoga, because yoga is one of the most ancient spiritual disciplines in the world. And yet the physics is very solid, because from the physics we get an understanding of the effect that is now called dark energy, which is one of the great mysteries in modern cosmology. And so I'm not going to go into the physics in too much depth tonight, but really what I want to talk to you about this evening is the subject of heaven and hell. Now, not many people talk about this subject of heaven and hell. Even the religious people don't believe in hell anymore. I didn't either. I was brought up as a Roman Catholic, and I dismissed the idea of hell altogether until my dear friend sitting in the audience tonight, Priscilla Husband, dropped a book into my lap. It was a book by a man called Howard Storm. And I would recommend you go onto the internet and Google Howard Storm and look at his Focus interview, television interview. But Howard Storm had the most extraordinary near-death experience, or what we now believe to be after-death experience. He didn't nearly die, he actually died and came back. Oh, yes. And that particular experience propelled me to write this book, Continuous Living. Now, the whole subject of after-death experiences, or near-death experiences, raises the issue of continuous living. Perhaps we don't just go out like a light when we die. Perhaps we go somewhere. And from the physics, it's very clear that we do. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to come back to this subject of heaven and hell, and subject of the angels, and the whole idea that this planet is an angel-making factory. I call it the womb of angels. That whilst we're on this physical plane, heaven and hell are mixed to give us a choice, so that when we leave this physical state, we go to the place of our choice. So that the heaven and hell, if you like, are separate. And in a sense, we get an opportunity in those two states to consolidate the experiences of our lifetime. But we, in this physical body, and that part of us which goes on, is just a tiny fragment of who we really are. In fact, we as a mind reincarnate again and again and again, and a soul fragment from each incarnation goes into either polarity to consolidate the experiences of the lifetime. And all of that, the physical and what I call the extra-physical, is all part of this planet, part of the womb of angels. And we're approaching a time now called the Ascension, which I'm going to talk about, where you have an opportunity to go beyond heaven and hell. Way beyond the speed of light, into the universe at large, to bring together all your soul fragments, all the thousands of incarnations that have been waiting for this moment in either heaven or hell, with the experience of the dark and the light, so that you as a new angel are born, a new spiritual being that can operate as a manager in the universe. The very powerful idea. You know, there's a lot of judgment about heaven and hell, about good and evil. But actually, to be an angel, an effective manager in this universe, you need to experience good and evil. You need the shadow as well as the light. And this is where we go beyond judgment. Because if anyone hurts you, maybe they are serving you. Because maybe you need to experience that hurt. So instead of judging them, you could love them. You could thank them. You could love your enemies. Isn't that what we're taught? And a friend of mine over here, Caroline, was asking me some questions about, well, where's humanity going? And my reply to her is, from the mouth of that one who told us to love our enemies, the one we call Jesus Christ, through information that has come into our world from him at this time. He said that there are people on this planet now who have surpassed him in their evolution, spiritual evolution. That is a powerful statement. Because he left the planet 2,000 years ago, and we've gone through 2,000 years. And this is a tough time. So don't underestimate this time. Don't underestimate your own potential. Don't underestimate the opportunity of being alive on this planet now. The opportunity of choice. I mean, there's a lot of talk at the moment about Donald Trump running for the election. We've all got our opinions. But one thing stands out. That man has no political experience. He's a billionaire, and he decided one day, I'm going to be president. And he's just going for it. And he might make it. It's not for us to judge whether he makes a good president or a bad president, but he's a very good example of how any human being can choose to do anything. We're in an amazing time. You could leap out of airplanes, you can skydive, you can walk around the coastline of Cornwall, you can do anything you choose if you don't limit yourself. That is the opportunity. I decided to rewrite physics. I just decided I was going to do it. I was 16, 17. I got an O-level in mathematics. I got a degree in nutrition. And yet, I have rewritten physics. You see, we put so much store by education, by credentials, by degrees, by so many things, but the human potential is enormous. Anyone can do anything if they choose to. They make up their mind with a determination. There's no limit. That's the big lesson of our time. So, let's get into it. It all started when I was 16, and I discovered in this book, this is a facsimile of a book that was published in 1904, and it's called The Advanced Course in Yogi Philosophy and Oriental Occultism. And it's been republished in 2007. Worth getting that book. Because in this book, there were many references to matter being a form of energy. And I knew enough about physics even at 16 because my father introduced me to nuclear physics when I was 6. That's why I've been working on physics since I was 6 or 7. And I knew enough about Einstein to know the significance of somebody saying, publishing in a book, matter is a form of energy, before Einstein published in 1905, E equals mc squared, that matter is a form of energy. So this book anticipated Einstein by 1 year publication. So when I read in this book that the yogis considered the smallest particles of matter to be vortices of energy, I was galvanized. I thought if these guys could anticipate Einstein, maybe they've got the key to the universe. A lot of people are doing yoga now, you know, doing the exercises. And they feel really good for it. And a lot of people do the meditation. A lot of people study yoga philosophy. But I tell you, yoga goes on and on and on, way beyond any of that. Yoga is going to be the basis of the future science, the future physics. You see, it's very simple. You have a line of movement, which is the movement of light. The speed of that movement is 186,000 miles per second. Don't ask me for what it is in meters, because I like feet and inches and yards, all right? A bit old-fashioned. And at the moment, physics attempts to explain everything in terms of waves. There's a very good reason for that. Because most physicists are men. And sperm is a waveform. So the waveform is the masculine, sexually, form, whereas the ovum is spherical. It's static. You know, men go out, they find the wife, they get the job, they hunt, you know what I mean? The man is like the waveform, he's got to go out there and do it, you know, whereas the woman is much more static. She stays at home, she carries the baby, she cooks the dinner. She's at home when he comes back with the deer on his shoulder. And that is the vortex. The vortex is the feminine form of energy. The idea is that when this line spins, it's free to spin on infinite axes, and therefore it forms a ball. Can't go any other way. So this is a vortex, but it's a perfect sphere, and this little vortex is the electron or the proton. You know, these subatomic particles. I don't know how many of you can remember what an electron is, but you get the atom and you get the proton and neutrons in the center, and the electrons all whizzing around. You've got that picture in your mind, okay. So those subatomic particles are vortices of energy. And obviously, if you unravel the vortex, you get a hell of a lot of energy, because the wool is a very compact form. The ball of wool is a compact form of wool. This vortex is a compact form of energy. Unravel it and you get a nuclear explosion. Okay? That's how you turn mass into energy, just unravel the vortex. And then, why is it so solid? Look, I can't get through this wall. Well, I could if I was a ghost. But, you know, it's pretty solid, this place. That solidity is an illusion created by the vortex. If you kick a rock, you hurt your foot, it doesn't move, because there are billions of little gyroscopes of energy. Spin creates inertia, resistance to movement. So spin in every direction creates resistance to movement in any direction. Now, Richard Feynman, one of the greatest physicists of the 20th century, said, the laws of inertia have no known origin. We don't know what it is. He said of nuclear energy, we have the formulas for that, but not the fundamental understanding. We don't know what it is. I've just explained nuclear energy. Just unravel the vortex, for heaven's sake. There's no problem. So, the vortex is spherical. It creates 3 dimensions. It extends in 3 dimensions. The subatomic particle is the center of the vortex, and the extension into infinity is space. Which is why when Einstein was asked to put relativity in a nutshell, he said, move matter and you move space-time. So as I move around, I move my bubble of space with me wherever I go. There's more space in this room since you lot have come. You see, the Newtonian physics says, no, there was more space in the room before you came. You filled the space. No, 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 no. You brought a bubble of space in with you. The space is thicker. That space is the aura. It extends into infinity. And everyone is contacting everyone else. If you send little vibrations of thoughts through your space aura, that influences people to the end of the universe. So it's very exciting. We can explain dowsing with this. You've got a little pendulum. And you've got water running along, and the pendulum goes that way, and if it hits a spring, it goes that way. If you try swinging a pendulum around the corner of a table, you'll see it follow the contours of the table, because the space around this table is an extension of the table. See? So, all the properties of material things can be explained away by the vortex. This is very powerful. The skeptics, the pooh-hooers, they explain everything away. Crop circles, oh, that was Doug and Dave. Even though crop circles go on happening, even when Doug and Dave are dead, they explain it away. If they can't, they'll employ a hoaxer. Okay? But whatever people want to believe in spiritually or psychically, it's explained away. So what I'm doing is I'm explaining away everything they believe in. Explaining away their reality, explaining away their particles. There is nothing existing, there is no material that exists. The atomic hypothesis is wrong. Democritus, who came up with this idea that little atoms exist and move in the void of space, is wrong. You've got the movement exists, and it creates the illusion of materiality through the vortex and the space extension of the vortex. So the movement is there, which, if you like, makes the atom and makes the space. Democritus had it the wrong way around. That's why the yogis spoke of the illusion of Maya. Everything's illusion, because they looked into the atom. They used their siddhi power, the anima siddhi, to look into the atom. And they saw that the atom had a lot in common with Tony Blair. There's nothing in there but spin. There's nothing moving, there's nothing solid. It creates the illusion of solidity. Yes. So we're explaining away materialism. Really, it shouldn't need explaining away, because E equals mc squared does that. Everything is energy. Energy is pure movement. How does movement, how does energy make matter? It spins. So, what we actually have here, and I explained it in my physics, is we've got a bit of movement. The particle of energy is a bit of movement which has a speed, a critical speed, and a shape. So it's either a vortex shape or a wave shape. You can force the shape to change, but it springs back like a little spring, back to its original shape again. And I use that to explain high energy physics. But the key is the speed of the energy. That is what Einstein was all about. Everything is relative to the speed of light. What was he talking about? The speed of light is the sole universal constant. What was he talking about? He was actually saying we live on a plane of energy, let's use the Hermetic term plane, in which the speed of the energy is the speed of common light. And it's entirely possible that there are other planes in which there's energy based upon faster speeds. So that is what I'm going to use. That simple idea is what I'm going to work with tonight to explain angels and heaven and hell and reincarnation, life after death. It's that possibility that there are other levels or planes of energy beyond the speed of light. Now let's just spend a little bit of time with this. First of all, with the energy, it's a bit of movement, but there's nothing moving. The whole idea that something exists and moves is materialism. So you assume an atom exists and it moves in a void of space. You assume God exists and creates out of the void. They're both forms of materialism. They're two heads on the same dog snapping at each other. Materialism and monotheism. Snap, snap, snap. Richard Dawkins versus the Archbishop of Canterbury, or whatever it is. All these people arguing, and they're both wrong. So let's kick the dog out, the two-headed dog, and start from scratch. Let's start with Einstein. Einstein said matter and the field or light are real, but there's no substance to them. There's no materiality to them. So how can it be? How can this world be if there's nothing there but bits of movement? Well, a particle of activity where nothing is acting is abstract. It's a thought, it's a bit of dream, which suggests that particles of energy are more like thoughts than things. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the dream state. The Aborigines were right. Running around with nothing on in the deserts of Australia. They were right. We're in a dream state. It's a dream. We're going to wake up from this world and we'll just find ourselves somewhere else. Because you see, if particles of energy are more like thoughts than things, the law pertaining to energy, which is it's neither created nor destroyed, that law will pertain to thought, will pertain to the mind. In other words, you can't destroy mind. It can't end. Neither can it begin. There can be no beginning or end to any of you, because you're sentient, conscious, thinking beings. And that thinking, that consciousness, can't end. It can only change in form. This is fundamental physics. Just we're using different words. You know, people use the word like electric charge or magnetism or gravity or, space or time or mass. I just say they're all different labels we stick onto vortex energy. It's the same energy. So we do that all the time. We get hung up on words. Is it energy or is it mind? There's no difference. You see, if energy is not an act of a material particle, then it can only be an act of consciousness. And this is why the whole of physics is moving into a position of accepting, realizing that consciousness is the bedrock of reality. Max Planck, the founder of quantum theory, said you can't get behind consciousness. You can't get underneath it. It's fundamental to matter. Fundamental to everything. Consciousness is, the mind is. And each of you are conscious. And the other exciting thing we realize is that consciousness cannot be divided. So there's only one consciousness. But it's the one consciousness in the many bodies. So you're all we are all the one being in the many bodies. Hello, me. How you doing? Hey. Me there is in a female body. Me there is in a female body. Me there is in a male body. But it's still me. We're the same, we're all brothers and sisters.
Yes.
And we're all thrown in together into this pot, and we're all bouncing off each other, doing all sorts of things to each other. Loving and hating and doing all sorts. But whatever is happening, ultimately, we know what we're doing. We are in control. We are entirely responsible for everything that happens to us. No blame, no victims, okay? Everything happens for a purpose. You know, that's the only way to live. It's no good getting miserable or depressed because of what's happened. No good getting fed up because it looks as though Trump might win the presidential election. I mean, you just got to accept whatever happens is perfect.
Just is.
There are no accidents. Because we are in the womb of Angel, we are in a flight simulator for pilots of consciousness. Let me explain to you how it works. This is the speed of energy that forms our world. This is the plane we're on. That's the physical world. 186,000 miles per second. Okay, 300 million meters per second, but I don't like to do metric. This is the next level, next plane, which I call the extra-physical. Other people call the etheric, or the ether. It's based on twice the speed of light. Then this next level out goes up to 16 times the speed of light. So it's not a linear progression. Okay? Now, these two levels, the speed of light and twice the speed of light, belong to this planet. So that's like the body of the planet and the soul of the planet. Okay? And we're at the moment residing in the body of the planet, but when our physical bodies go, we move into the soul level of the planet. Okay? And then, and we make that movement at the transition called death. This shift to 16 times the speed of light, we do that through ascension. Now, ascension is possible with the physical body or the extra-physical. Let me explain to you how it happens. I'll just explain how ascension happens. Ascension is not an increase in frequency of vibration. If you want to test ascension, put your bunny in the microwave and switch it on, and you won't have an ascended bunny because the microwave increases frequency of vibration. Okay? I'm getting a nod from a physicist at the back of the room. What you would do if you increase the frequency of vibration of your bunny is you would cook bunny. Okay? So, you're not going to be cooked when you go through the ascension process. What happens in the ascension process is more like beam me up, Scotty. What happens is that the speed of energy in every subatomic particle of your body will accelerate beyond the speed of light. And your body will vanish to all people around. They will see the wall behind you. Believe it or not, you can actually do this. You can actually do it at the right time. It's just the brakes are on because it's a simultaneous thing we're all going to do together, this leap into the light. Okay? So the thing is that the ascension process is very, very simple. It's brought about actually by a beam of energy from the fifth level, this 16 times the speed of light. And it's a resonance program. You overshadow the body with that beam, just like Beam Me Up, Scotty. And the resonance of every subatomic particle, every vortex, the energy resonating to 16 times the speed of light, and you go up the tunnel of light. Okay? Now, I'll come back to the ascension in a moment. What I want to do is to talk about the transitional process that happens before that to most of us, the process we call death. Now, there's a lot of information coming in from after-death and near-death experiences. And most people who go through an after-death or near-death experience, they find themselves stepping out of their body. So very often they have an out-of-body experience. There's stories of people hovering above the accident, hovering above the operating table. And there's stories of people, you know, seeing the body in anguish as it's dying, whereas they're floating above and they're totally at peace. So there's nothing to fear about the death process, because you might not even, you might be watching yourself out of body as you go through the death experience. But what you'll find with that body that you're in, that rises out of this body, like you shed this body, is it's a very real body. It's as real as this body. You'll have eyes and hands. It's identical to this body, with a heart, with blood. Only, according to these experiences, you're far more alert. You're far more conscious than you are now. You hear better, you see better, you smell better. There's no tiredness, you feel fantastic, and you are young. It's the most incredible and beautiful body. I call it the two-body dilemma. What I'm suggesting is that we are growing two bodies at the same time, out of the same blueprint, and that actually this physical body is acting as scaffolding for the extra physical body. And the purpose of this body, believe it or not, is to damp you down. It's like having a great big heavy spacesuit. The purpose of this body is to create the illusion of separation. You've heard of original sin. And everyone thinks, oh, how terrible, and we've got to do mea culpas all our lives because to try to get back into a state of grace. There's nothing wrong with sin. It's not bad. Sin means separation. It means to be without, outside. Sincerely, without wax. We're here to be in a state of sin. We're here to be separated. It's the brain. It separates us off from the consciousness of the universe. We've gone to so much trouble to create these bodies. We've done it. We're the creators. We're responsible for our own reality. You see, if you are God, imagine the one creator principle of the universe. You're all powerful. You know everything. You're everywhere all at the same time. And you are one. That is a formula for boredom. What a miserable state to be in. You can't go anywhere. You can't do anything. You just are. An eternal meditation, samadhi, I'm so tired of it. So maybe God got bored, because that's what you are, you're all God. And instead of being one, decided to become many. Instead of being all powerful, decided to set up a simulator, a situation where you could be powerless. Instead of knowing everything, so you can't discover anything, cutting it all out and knowing nothing and starting all from scratch, and seeing if you could discover yourself, seeing if you can find yourself, seeing if you could discover the universe. Wow, look at us with the Hubble Space Telescope and all the stuff that's going on. We're having so much fun discovering everything because we don't know nothing. We're God going where no God has gone before. We're God breaking the boredom. Let's see what it's like to be burnt alive at the stake. We've all done that. We've all been through that experience at some point. We've been witches, necromancers, wizards, okay, whatever it is they've burnt us for, heretics. I'm a reborn, born-again heretic. So you see, we're here for this adventure. We're here to experience the shadow. We're here to experience the darkness. And when that brain is shed, the physical brain, we just step out of it and come into a much greater state of awareness. So all these people taking drugs, trying to, you know, peyote or LSD and stuff like that, trying to break down the barriers. Sometimes, you know, people get dropped on their heads and that damages the brain and they become psychic. It's a form of, you know, brain damage. You know, when people interface with animals, they find animals and plants seem to be tapping into an infinite intelligence. You've seen it on super smart animals, you know, these great apes solving complex mathematical equations, tap, 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 without even looking at the screen, just munching on a banana or something. I mean, it's like, they just know it, they're just there. We're so lucky to be in a state of sin. Why rush? You know, everyone says, oh my God, I want to ascend. You know, I want to be holy. You know, no. We're here to be grounded. By all means, have a wonderful time praying and meditating and that, but don't judge people who don't. Because they're having a wonderful time being billionaires and trying to become president and stuff like that. See? So the great thing is realizing every human life is incredibly precious. Every human life is priceless. Every human experience is priceless. It doesn't matter which polarity people go to when they step out of their bodies. Can you imagine for some people how horrible it would be to be with us all spiritual people? Imagine that, finding yourself in heaven with all these spiritual people. No, they want to go off and be with their mates, wherever they go, you see. So the thing is that not to judge people the way they choose to live, because what the near-death experiences show is that as people rise out of their bodies, they go off into another reality. And those that go to the heavenly place, which is they choose love and light, they spend their time in the halls of learning, really integrating, really learning from every experience in this lifetime. And there's no judgment, it's just really getting as much juice as you can out of the experiences of this life. Because you are just one tiny soul fragment. Each incarnation is a tiny